Hey guys, Craig here with howtopest.com, and we're bringing you another video. Today's video, Talpirid mole bait. This is a great product for those of you that are dealing with moles in your yards, front or back, or in your garden areas. Let's start by explaining what that mole mound is going to look at versus a gopher mound. So a gopher mound is pretty much just going to be a mound all over the yard in different sections of the yard. The moles are actually, I'm going to bend down here. We don't have a mole tunnel system to show you, but it's going to be above ground and it's going to curve back and forth, and you can physically see the tunnel above ground. It's going to have cracks in it. How you access that tunnel to get, this is when you have this Talpirid package inside is a sealed bag like this that keeps these worms moist. I pulled one of the worms out. They look similar to this, and they're almost just like a, what are those worms? Gummy worm. It's almost like a gummy worm. It's to mimic their food source underground, and these work fantastically. I've used these for years. So you got your tunnel in the yard, in the garden, wherever it may be. You're going to take out your worm. You're going to go along the tunnel, and you're going to just take your finger, and you're going to gently poke down. The entrance to that tunnel system is literally about a ½ inch into the ground right there, if that. So when you poke, you're going to feel it open up right away. You're going to gently pull your finger back out of there, and you're going to place one of these worms. Get this worm all the way in the tunnel system. Gently take a piece of moist dirt, cover where you've poked that hole with your finger. You can also use, those of you that don't want to use your fingers, you can use a dowel. You can use a piece of wrought iron, anything that's going to form a little poke in that hole. But once again, it's about this far down. It's not that far down, guys. If you're going to go to the main tunnel system of a mole, it's going to start to kind of look like a gopher mound, but more of a horseshoe. But it is going to be an elevated dirt mound. It's going to be about 10 to 12 inches high. It's going to be noticeable. That one, you're going to take your finger won't do the job on this one. You're going to need some type of probe. So take that dowel, 12-inch dowel, take a piece of wrought iron, poke that down in until it gives. You're going to feel it go in with resistance, and all of a sudden it'll give and collapse. You've entered the tunnel system. Same thing. One of these down into that system. As far as the above ground tunnel system, about every 5 to 10 feet. You don't need to go crazy. Some people like to check for activity to see if it's an active tunnel system by poking the hole first without doing the bait, and then just marking with a flag or some kind of marker where you've poked those holes systematically around the area, and then come back in about 72 hours and see if that mole, because of the sunlight you've now exposed into the tunnel system, see if that mole comes back and plugs that hole. If he plugs that hole, it's active. So a little longer of a process, but you're not wasting your money treating old tunnel systems that are no longer being used by the mole. So you can go that route. Most of the time, we come out, we can tell if the soil is moist and it's not all dried out from being exposed. So we can usually tell if it's new. We go ahead and we poke that day, expose the hole, treat every 5 to 10 feet. Usually in a front yard where we're putting these, most times we're no more than 7 to 10 of these at the most to take care of that system, unless it's just out of control and you've been doing this with this for a long time. These come, I believe, 20 to a pack, if I'm correct. Yeah, 20 worm-shaped baits. So you want to keep these in a cool spot in the summertime, or in the trucks even, when we have them there. They will melt. But here's the good news. Just because they don't look like a worm anymore doesn't mean they don't work. All you do is take a razor blade or some kind of cutting tool. You need to get them back in a cool spot first so they're not melted anymore. Put them in the fridge for a couple hours. They're still going to be effective. Cut them out to look like a worm like this. Even you can tell this one's got a little bit of a indentation in him. Make it look like a worm. Put it in the tunnel system. It'll work just fine. So if these are melted, they still work great. They're not useless. So these are the Talpirid mole baits. They're just a great alternative than to sitting in those older style big clunky traps where you got to really muscle it like a bear trap and get the claws to open. You put these in, leave it, come back 72 hours later, 48 hours later. If you don't see anything poking up new, I go through and I just walk over the top of the mounds, basically smashing them flush with the ground again, and then check them in a couple days. If it stays flush, you got no new activity, it's done the job. Anything new, just go ahead and do the same procedure. Poke into the hole, place a worm. Got a fly in my face here. We'll talk about some fly treatments in another video, especially ones that kill this guy. But those mole baits, I lost my train of thought, guys, but those mole baits, they're just a really effective way of wiping out moles. But that's the difference between, like I said in the beginning of the video, a gopher tunnel system versus a mole tunnel system. Gophers are not going to have above ground tunnel systems. They're just going to have above ground mounds or surface holes where they've poked up, kind of where they're checking out the area. You've seen in our gopher videos where we've showed you how to set the gopher traps that we sell, and we've actually showed you catches that we've done with those traps. Unfortunately, I don't have any active mole activity right now to show you an active way of doing this, but it's pretty cut and dry. I mean, you just put gloves on if you don't want your fingers exposed. I'd probably put gloves on anyways, guys. It's a pesticide treated worm. Poke it into the hole, but going bare hands, if you do, there's this old wise tale that if you touch gopher traps with your bare hands or you touch a product like that, you're not going to catch them. Far from the truth. I've been doing this over 25 years. I've never found that to be true. I think in the video we may have even showed you without gloves. I can't remember in the gopher video, but it's always a good idea and good procedure to wear the gloves, unlike I'm doing right now, just because you're dealing with a pesticide. So any questions on the Talpirid worm or the Talpirid mole bait, just give us a holler if there's something we haven't touched on, or we can walk you through a specific problem you may have. Just reach out to us. We're happy to talk to you. Once again, like our videos, howtopest.com, and there'll be many more to come in the future.